Hey everybody, Chad Wesley Smith here, jtsstrength.com. Just answering some questions that I got through Facebook yesterday while I'm driving around here. So hopefully I don't die in a fiery accident in the effort to answer your questions. But just know I'm that committed to helping you. All right. Chris Pickering asked about what is going to be better for a thrower to develop power of, clean and snatch, or clean pull, snatch pull. And I would definitely say that for anyone besides a competitive Olympic lifter or a CrossFitter who obviously has to do a lot of Olympic lifts, I think just the pull is going to be better for you. I know when I was throwing the shot put, I had been pretty good in the clean and okay in the snatch during my first 2 years of college, and then decided when I transferred schools and took over my own training, I dropped them both from my program just because they were putting too much stress on my wrists, on my elbow, on my shoulder. And obviously those are things that you need to be healthy if you're going to throw stuff far. With that being said, I'm probably in the minority in this thought that you can get away with just doing the pulls, but the pulls are where you're developing power. And is there a benefit to the catch? Certainly, force absorption, coordination, all that kind of stuff. But in just pure power development through that triple extension, the pull is where it's at. You just need to have some way, I think, to measure how high you're pulling the bar. And I know Sorenex, the good people at Sorenex sell. It's just kind of like a attachment to your rack, and it's more or less just like a piece of PVC attached to a spring, and you just pull and until the bar hits that, just so you can stay consistent and be objective in your progress on that lift. With that being said, the way that I would train throwers now compared to when I trained myself for throwing is so vastly different. If I could sit down a 15-year-old version of myself and talk to him about what he needed to do to throw the shot put as far as possible, it would look very much different than what I did. James Smith was really the first guy to expose me to Bondarchuk and the idea of dynamic correspondence and all that stuff. And I didn't give it the credence it needed when he told me about it, which was about a year away from me stopping throwing. But if I was to go back and talk to a 15-year-old version of myself now, I put so much emphasis on developing my general abilities, so weight room lifts, jumps and sprints, and that's a trap that a lot of throwers fall into. If they're strong, if you're good in the weight room, it's fun to lift because you see immediate progress there. And when I was a junior in high school, it was like a particularly rainy year in California, and I had only gotten to throw maybe 2 times before the season opened. So I was just lifting, and jumping and sprinting and all kinds of stuff like that, and came out and opened the season with like a 5-foot PR, not having touched a shot more than twice. And not to say that I did that and just thought, oh man, all I need to do is lift now, but that had to impact my thinking to some degree. And when I was 23, when I finished throwing the shot put, I could bench 500, squat 700, 725, like a 35-inch vertical, and general indicators that if you lined them up next to Reese Hoffa, Adam Nelson, Christian Cantwell, any of the top shot putters in America, guys throwing over 70 feet every week, they were at or better than them in every indication. Don Babbitt, who's a coach at University of Georgia, has coached Reese Hoffa, Adam Nelson, Broger in the javelin, a coach that I really respect, a really smart guy, and really open with information about his athletes' training. Published, it was just a table of Reese Hoffa from when Reese was a freshman at University of Georgia through when he threw until when he threw his PR 22.43, like 73 feet 4 inches. So this was showing his progression from like a 62-foot shot putter to a 73-foot shot putter, and his progression in almost every general indicator there was. So, bench, squat, clean, snatch, vertical jump, standing long jump, 40-yard dash, overhead backwards shot, stand throw, and throws with under and overweight shots. And even to when he threw 73 feet, his best squat number was not from that year. His best vertical jump number was not necessarily from that year. Like, that kind of stuff will have a very high correlation, and you can see this in all the Bondarchuk's work. Those kind of general exercises will have a very high correlation to success at a lower level. They'll really indicate how successful maybe someone's going to be around the 19-meter level, maybe even 20-meter level in the shot put, but it's not so cut and dry when you get into 21 and 22 and 23 meters. And I missed out on that, and I wish that I could go back and tell myself, how to do it differently, and to tell myself it's all right to not bench 500 when you're 22 years old, because that's not going to make you throw any farther. Like, put a little bit less attention towards that and more attention towards throwing overweight shots and underweight shots and doing drills and different rotational strength exercises that maybe aren't as fun and they're not as sexy or whatever, and they're not going to be cool to make a YouTube video of a lot of times, but they're going to make me throw farther. Because I could have taken a much more sub-maximal approach in the weight room, and still, when I was 26, going on 27, like I am right now, I probably still would have ended up benching 500 and squatting close to 700. But where I was when I was 22, 23, but I would be throwing so much further. As my technique would be so much better, my special strength would be so much better, and special strength, you can only develop it, through doing the competitive exercise at varying intensities. I needed to be out there throwing 18-pound shots and 20-pound shots and 14-pound shots and puds and more med ball throws and all kinds of stuff like that. And hopefully through the work we do on Juggernaut, at Juggernaut, me actually working with athletes, and then all the information that people put out, that kids who are 15-year-old shot putters or their coaches are gonna be able to read that and be able to take a more long-term approach for success. That I wasn't able to take because no one was there telling me that. And that's not to say that I didn't have a good coach. I had a great coach who was one of the biggest influences in my life. But I could have done it better. And almost everyone could probably look back at their athletic career and have things that they would have changed in it and say, well, I could have done this better, I could have done that better. But that's hopefully what we're gonna do, is be able to help some people out. Matt Vincent, World Highland Games champ, does a great job discussing all this stuff in his ebooks, Training Lab, Throwing Lab. Matt's a really smart guy who's been a tremendously successful thrower who continues to get better. Who was a 59-foot shot putter at LSU and is now a 63, 64-foot thrower in the open weight in the Highland Games. And that's not with the benefit of throwing shoes in a ring and throwing shoes in a ring and a shot that's identical every time. He's throwing that out on grass with cleats on, with a big stone that's not the same every week. So Chris, hopefully that answered your question in a very long-winded, roundabout way about what you want to do, pulls or full cleans and full snatches, and maybe just gave you and anyone else watching some different perspective on what you want to do with your own training as a thrower or with athletes you work with. All right, so check out jtsstrength.com, read the articles, pick up Matt Vincent's books, Throwing Lab, Training Lab. Great information in there. All right, thanks.